And here I had thought that since I gotten a perfectly working Gotway Monster right out of the box, brand new, that this would have meant that my chain of bad luck with electric unicycle had finally ended. But apparently I celebrated way too soon since my Monster had now developed a pretty serious problem.
This week I learned how to be an auto mechanic under protest and why this bubble tea place is going to help me fix it.
Just make sure it like explodes and burn up, then it'll be really good.
And the warm-up ride to the New York Electric Fest. Are you ready for the biggest e-board event of the year? Roll the intro, damn it! As always, if you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. So I've been riding my Gotway Monster whenever I can and has so far racked up about 300 miles in the last 3 weeks. Now, if you were surprised by that number, you really shouldn't be, since trust me, you do the same thing if not more if you had this wheel. Since more so than any other electric unicycle, the Monster just gobble up those miles like they're yummy Skittles.
Now, if anything, the one thing I learned from my still relatively brief experience riding and owning an electric unicycle is that since they are in that sweet band of bleeding edge technology, they often break, sometimes right out of the box. And unfortunately, it does appear that whoever that was responsible for assembling my Monster at the Gotway factory had indeed missed something critical.
At first, it wasn't something terribly noticeable, a slight click at the end of either hard acceleration or braking, more of a nuisance than anything else. Plus, I had noticed a similar behavior when I had a chance to ride another local rider's Monster, but what became increasingly alarming was that over the span of a few days, it became more and more pronounced to the point where the entire casing vibrated if I were to hit the bump the wrong way.
So apparently this was a common issue with the Gotway wheels, especially the Monster, due to the way the pedal hanger is designed to connect with the axle. The main axle nut is designed to apply inward pressure on two shin plate, which is in turn set inside of a V-shaped groove, and will clamp down on the axle when properly tightened. However, if the nut is loose, there's no pressure, the two plates will flow and you end up with a shifting axle, which is no good.
All of this is exacerbated by the greater weight and size of the Monster, which not only act as a lever to loosen that nut, but also warp and wear down the shin over time. Now, why haven't anyone mentioned this to me before I bought the Monster? Remember how I was saying that the Monster pushes the envelope of what is possible with an electric unicycle? Well, this is the flip side of that coin. And there are times when I question if it's truly a good idea to put this amount of speed, power, and weight in a body made out of basically the same material as Legos.
And in some way, the Monster is truly a unique product in that it is a direct result of Gotway's willingness to push the envelope essentially as far as the EUC community asks and is willing to pay for. However, as hobbyists and not really engineers, at least some of us aren't, the requests we make aren't necessarily rooted with considerations such as safety margin. Strangely, that feels like the core of the Gotway experience, and part of the reason why that hobbyists are willing to overlook the many mistakes and problems that Gotway Wheels has suffered over the years.
So this is Kung Fu Tea on St. Mark's, a popular bubble tea chain with multiple locations here in New York City, but this one in particular is different. It is also known as HQ to the local e-skaters, since it has the perfect combo of central location, outdoor seating and outlets, and it helps that St. Mark's is probably one of the best places to hang out and people watch in the city. And yes, the e-skate community is super active here. People visiting often ask, is there a ride on so-and-so date? Of course there is! There's a ride every day of the week, especially during the summer. But more importantly, the community also fill in as support and does a far better job at it than any of the wheel manufacturer can ever hope for. Aside from the thousands of pages on the EUC forum documenting diagnostic and repair instruction for just about every single wheel on the market, the local groups also helps with more hands-on assistance.
Which is actually how I figure out that a loose axle perhaps may be the problem that I was having, since Chris, aka House of Job, had graciously offered, with the help of some bagel bribes, to open up my Monster and check it out. This was especially helpful since if the axle does indeed turn out to be the problem, not only would I need a special wrench, I would also need a custom fabricated socket in order for me to actually fix the problem. Even though we sweat over the Monster for a whole morning, the repair didn't really take, because the custom socket that Chris had, which fit his V2 Monster, couldn't quite get through the case on the new V3. So as a result, the nut wasn't as tight as it needs to be, and soon after, basically the same day, loosen up. So it's back to Amazon to look for a socket that would actually fit through the case, and thanks to the generous offer from Rehab 1 of the EUC forum, who offered to actually cut the slot in the socket if I were to send the correct one to him, finally I was able to get something that worked.
And finally, we're actually ready to repair my brand new Monster. So this is how a little known manufacturer in China is able to develop, produce, and sell a niche but technologically sophisticated product that bypass most local regulations, despite their poor QC, lack of patents, marketing, or even a dealer network. The EUC community essentially cover all of that gap just as long as Gotway continue to produce faster and more capable wheels, and that's how we got this.
Speaking of which, I am still a little bit jealous of the level of love and support that the kids on the e-skate and one-wheel side of the fence get from their company and manufacturers. For instance, this weekend also happened to be the NYEF Fest as sponsored by Philippachi, the action store based in Soho that offer just about every single possible toy that any adult, man or woman, would love to have.
Now, I was planning to use the footage from the fest as the ending, but it was such a full day that there's just no way that I can fit it inside of a few minutes. So I'm going to save it for the next episode, and instead, here's our warm-up ride the night prior. That's right, this wasn't even the main event, and we still got a solid showing. This was a classic ride straight down Broadway, passes by World Trade and Wall Street, round the Battery Park with its spectacular waterfront, and back up the west side to the Chelsea Pier, where there's a nice spacious charge spot by the sports complex. the crew from Toronto. Shout out to Jack and his channel, links below. They took a 12-hour-long bus ride just to come down to row with us and attend the NYEF Fest. Once again, I managed to waste another 10 minutes of your life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, please like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments section below. Oh, I would also greatly appreciate it if you would help and spread the word about my channel. Until the next video, thank you!